At the end of the Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals competition here at Vandermeer Speedway, we'll be announcing the winner of the Goodyear Eagle Driver of the Race Award. And Goodyear will be giving $1,000 to the scholarship fund of the Specialty Equipment Market Association in that driver's name. Who will it be? Well, we'll just have to wait and find out. Right now, I can tell you one thing. Brock Yates, Don Garlitz, we're going into pro stock.
And Steve, of the 3 pro classes, this is the one that suffers the most in this rare air, pro stock.
That's right. They can't put in more nitro and drive the blowers harder. They have to use pump gasoline, and they're required to use 2 4-barrel carburetors. So good driving is what can really pay off here. And Brad Klein, well, he got a real thrill in his pro stock career earlier today in round number 1 of pro stock competition. From Amarillo, Texas, he was paired up with the number 3 qualifier, Bob Glidden, in his Ford Pro. Klein had qualified only number 14. But watch right off the mark. What's the 4 lane? The 10-time Winston champion in the category, Bob Glidden, broke the throttle linkage right off the starting line. I talked with a just discouraged Glidden. One of those cheap parts, but you...
Well, you know, when your year's going this way, this is the way it goes. Until it changes around, I guess this is the way it'll be.
It's got to change sooner or later.
So Glidden's misfortune is Brad Klein's good fortune, placing him up against Buddy Ingersoll, the veteran from Illinois, in this round true pro stock action.
Ingersoll for years competed in the sportsman classes with turbocharged V8s and V6s. He wishes he had a turbocharger now, but they're not legal in NHRA pro stock. The crowd looks on wondering if Klein could make it 2 in a row. No, Brad Klein left too soon. He is disqualified, a foul start, a red light, call it what you want. Disregard the man who crossed the finish line first. The win goes to Ingersoll at a 784, 174 miles per hour.
Well, Steve, let me tell you something about that red light by Klein. Against Glidden, he ran a 4:21 reaction time. A perfect is 400. Well, to get a 4:21, you've got to anticipate that yellow just a little bit. You're counting on Buster Couch to push the button when you want him to. Well, that time, he didn't do it.
And he paid the price. And the benefactor was Buddy Ingersoll. Steve?
Been a long time, buddy. In fact, I don't think we've ever talked with you going into that Final Four.
No, we just got started with pro stock last year, and me and Jeff Beldy and my son Mark, we've been working real hard, and this year it's coming a little faster each race, and hopefully we can get back to what we used to do, win a few of them.
Great to see you have some success.
Thank you.
And now Joe Lapone getting ready to go against Larry Morgan. Joe from Berwyn, Pennsylvania, the benefactor of an excellent run against Jerry Ekman in the first round, Steve Evans.
That's right, Brock. Jerry Ekman came in here the Winston points leader in pro stock. He met up with Lapone, as you said, in round number 1. Lapone was the 10th qualifier. Ekman was his 7th qualifier. Ekman's Trans Am looked to have a good chance. It was Ekman off the mark first ahead of the Beretta of Lapone, but Lapone stayed with him. Lapone pulled even and ahead.
I don't think I was late on the line. In fact, I think I might have left on Joe. We got halfway down the track, and the motor stumbled, and he went around me, but I was out on him and pulling away, and it just, I don't know, this place is tough place to run fast.
You said it all for everybody.
So another one of the top pros falls in the shadow of Thunder Mountain as Joe Lapone gets ready to face yet another really tough competitor, Larry Morgan for Newark, Ohio, the number 2 qualifier.
Yeah, and by qualifying number 2, he tells us that he's not having the motor problems in the altitude that Ekman was. There is Morgan in the far lane. It is Morgan with his best reaction time of the year. Can he hold on? By a car and a half. Larry Morgan 7.79 seconds to Lapone 7.88. Outstanding driving by Larry Morgan, and he'd been getting a little criticism here and there for his reaction time, but boy, that was about as good as they can get safely.
You are on board with Darrell Alderman in the only Dodge Daytona Racing and NHRA Pro Stock competition. He will go against Ricky Smith. But in the meantime, let's go to Steve with Larry Morgan.
You've been practicing your reaction time. They're getting a lot better.
Well, you know, you got on me the last few races. I have to step up somewhere. I don't want you cutting on me all the time.
I'll take credit for it.
Well, Steve, I think you ought to give them all a little nudging down there. We like to see those good reaction times.
Well, here's a man who's showing some real quality driving at the wheel of a very, very good automobile. Darrell Alderman in an underdog car, Steve Evans, that has shown enormous strength this year.
Well, here's a man who has shown enormous strength in the cockpit. That is Ricky Smith, King, North Carolina. He and Darrell Alderman have had consistently the best reaction times in this entire category. Boy, that's saying something. There are some whole shot artists that seem to be mentally connected to the Christmas tree. Now with his hand on the lever that pulls second gear is Darrell Alderman. Alderman, a poor start. You see the blue car out the driver's window. That is Ricky Smith. He's ahead. Alderman goes for the shoot. They cross the finish line. Darrell is the second car across that stripe. How about Ricky Smith, Don Garland? It's unbelievable.
I've never seen a whole shot so good, and Alderman is generally a good lever. Watch this lever. It looks like it's two different car races. And I'll tell you what, Steve, in this type of racing, especially up on this mountain, you don't give away handicaps like that, or you're whipped. And Ricky Smith made the best of it. As we saw in that in-car camera, what a beautiful shot. And here we see it down course. Alderman had the best seat in the house. He could see Ricky Smith's car the entire race. I mean, the back part of the car. Now remember, a .400 is a perfect light. Ricky Smith had a .410 to Alderman's .515. And even though he had a better ET, he lost.
I never would have dreamed, Ricky, that you could drill fellow hole shot artist Darrell Alderman by 1/10 of a second.
Well, he got me last race, you know, and he got me bad. I was running good, should have won the race. So I made up my mind this time. I'm going for broke here this weekend. I'm running good. I sure hope I can win it, Steve.
Well, he sure got a good shot at it if he can pull reaction times like that. Right now, though, we've got Warren Johnson versus Mark Powick. Johnson, #1 qualifier, against Powick, #9. Earlier, Steve had a look with Mark's car as to how these guys set these automobiles up at this altitude.
When the consumer buys a brand new automobile in a mile-high city like Denver, Colorado, there'll be a little different package under the hood. From the factory, there'll be a little more ignition timing so that the spark plug fires a bit earlier. The computer chip will be remodeled to allow less fuel into the engine to coincide with less air. The spark plugs will be of a hotter range. More importantly, the camshaft inside the engine that controls the valves will be of a different grind. Now, this is Mark Powick's rent-a-car, and what's true here is also true with his Pro stock. Those are about the only things he can do. He's already running as much compression as is humanly possible. And I mentioned the camshaft as being very important in the rent-a-car, as it is in his 500 cubic inch Pro stock motor. It is ground differently so that the intake valve stays open longer, the exhaust valve closes earlier, all trying to trap more cylinder pressure. And the instantaneous overlap in most cars at sea level when they're open at the same time is virtually eliminated. So Mark Powick's Pro stock science here at 5,800 feet is from his rent-a-car.
Some of those fuelers ought to be over there looking at some of that stuff. Sounds good to me.
Well, we'll see how it works because he's going against the #1 qualifier, Warren Johnson, who ran a 7:76 here. So,
well, I'm telling you, these guys are razor sharp. Johnson with a good light for him. Powick matching wheels with him to the far end, though. And then the muscle of Johnson's Oldsmobile takes over. 7:79 to a 7:89, 1/10 of a second victory for Warren Johnson. And that's a train length in today's Pro stock racing.
So we've got the pairings now for the final four in Pro stock here at Denver. That will be Ricky Smith versus Warren Johnson. Warren has the lane choice in that race. The other pair, Larry Morgan versus the underdog, Buddy Ingersoll. Larry Morgan has lane choice in that race. Stick with us. We'll be right back.